All right. Hey, everyone out there, all you future IAS officers. Let's dive into something you're bound to see on those UPSC mains exams.
Definitely.
The environment.
Oh, yeah.
We're going deep on this one, the State of Forest Report 2023. That's the ISFR 2023.
Big one.
Now, you might see that India's green cover is over 25% and think, great, we're good. But hold on, there's a lot more to it, especially if you're thinking about those essay questions.
Yeah, it's one of those things that seems simple at first, but if you just stick with the headlines, you might miss the nuances that can really make or break your score.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the ISFR 2023 is all about nuance. Like, for example, it makes a distinction between forest cover and tree cover.
Right.
Which might sound similar, but really understanding that difference is going to get you those marks.
It's crucial. Think of forest cover as those core wooded areas, officially designated forests,
Okay,
with at least 10% canopy density.
got it.
And it doesn't actually matter who owns the land.
So like natural forests.
Yeah.
But also maybe some like really well-established plantations.
Right, exactly. Now, tree cover, that's a broader category. It includes all the trees that are outside those designated forests.
So that could be the park down the street.
To me.
Or trees along a highway.
Yep.
Or even in someone's backyard.
Exactly.
Okay.
So even if you're planting trees in your backyard,
Yeah.
you're adding to tree cover, but not necessarily to forest cover.
Interesting. I can see how knowing that distinction would be really important. Like if a UPSC question asked about, say, government afforestation programs compared to individual efforts.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is the ISFR 2023 actually shows that while forest cover has increased, it's only been a little bit,
Okay.
but tree cover has seen a much bigger jump, about half a percentage point.
Wow. So more trees overall, but the details matter.
The details matter.
This feels like classic UPSC territory.
Right.
Data interpretation.
Exactly.
They love to test on that.
Yeah.
It's not enough to know the figures, right?
No. You need to understand the trends and what those trends say about our environment and the decisions that are being made.
Okay.
And this is where the ISFR report gets really fascinating.
Okay.
We need to talk about what's going on within the forests.
All right. I'm all ears. What's happening in these forests within forests?
Okay, so India classifies its forests by density. Very dense forest. We call that VDF.
Okay.
Dense forest, DF.
Gotcha.
And open forest, OF.
Okay. VDF, DF, OF. Got it.
Now, here's what you really need to know for the UPSC.
Right.
These categories, they're not static.
Right.
These forests, they're dynamic. They
Okay.
can transition between these different classes. A VDF might become a DF. Or an OF could do really well and become a DF.
Got it.
So even if the overall forest cover numbers look stable,
Yeah.
there could be all kinds of shifts happening.
It's a bit like how some policies look great on paper, right?
Yeah.
But then you get those unintended consequences in the real world.
Precisely. And the ISFR report, it actually has this tool.
Okay.
It's called a change matrix, and it keeps track of all these transitions, so we get a much clearer picture than if we just look at overall forest cover.
So it's not just the total area, but also how the composition of that area is changing over time.
Interesting.
Definitely good to remember for those analysis questions.
Definitely.
So what does this change matrix reveal about India's forests?
Well, it shows that while we might be gaining tree cover overall, we're losing a lot of dense forest.
Wait, hold on. We're losing dense forests, but isn't the overall green cover increasing? How does that even work? This is like one of those catch-22 situations we always seem to run into with environmental policy.
Yeah?
We're gaining green cover overall, but at the same time, we're losing these dense forests.
Right.
What's the deal with that?
So it goes back to that difference between forest cover and tree cover.
Okay.
The report points to a big factor being these plantations. They're growing really quickly on land that's not designated as forest. So that contributes to the green cover numbers, but they don't actually replace those natural dense forests.
So it's like we're swapping out these diverse ecosystems for something that's more like, I don't know, like a monoculture farm.
Yeah.
And I remember from when I was studying for the UPSC that those monocultures, they get a lot of flack.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're not resilient. They're really vulnerable to pests and diseases.
Absolutely.
So does that apply here?
Yeah, think about it. You've got a dense forest, all these different species, all different ages of trees. It's got a really complex structure. It's like a community, right?
Yeah.
It can handle a lot of stress.
Okay.
Then you've got a plantation. Often it's just one type of tree.
Okay.
All planted at the same time, like
Okay.
a bunch of clones. If something comes along that they're vulnerable to,
Well,
it could wipe out the whole thing.
so even though they look green
Yes.
and they add to the green cover, Ecologically, it's not the same in the long run. That's something to keep in mind for the exam, especially for those questions about sustainable development.
Definitely.
Okay.
And there's another big difference, too, that connects to climate change, which is a huge topic for the UPSC these days.
Oh, right, carbon storage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Natural forests, they're incredible at storing carbon. You've got tons of vegetation, these massive trees, really intricate root systems. And they lock away that carbon for years, sometimes even centuries.
Wow.
But plantations, especially the ones that use these fast-growing trees that are valuable commercially,
Oh.
they're often harvested really quickly.
So even if they grow fast,
Yeah,
and it looks like they're doing a good job,
yeah,
they're not holding onto that carbon the same way.
exactly. It's a quick fix, not a long-term solution.
Right.
And actually, the UNFCCC,
The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change.
yeah, they've called India out on exactly this point.
Oh.
We've been assuming that these plantations are going to reach the carbon stock levels of natural forests in like 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And the UNFCCC is saying that that's just not realistic.
So we might be hitting those short-term carbon targets, but we could end up with a deficit in the long run. It's like we're always trying to balance those immediate needs with what's sustainable in the long term.
That's a theme that comes up again and again with a lot of environmental issues.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of complex thinking that the UPSC examiners really want to see
Yeah.
from the people who might be making policy one day.
Okay, so we know that plantations aren't really a substitute for these natural forests,
Right?
especially when we're talking about resilience and carbon storage.
Yeah.
But if we need more green cover and we need to address climate change, are we just supposed to forget about plantations altogether?
Well, it's not about finding one perfect solution.
Okay.
It's about really understanding the nuances and making informed choices. Plantations have a role to play, but we can't just treat them like a simple swap for protecting and restoring natural forests.
This is feeling a lot like one of those big multi-dimensional UPSC essay questions,
Right.
where on the one hand you have economic development and hitting those immediate targets.
Yep.
But then on the other hand, you have to think about the long-term ecological consequences and what it means for climate change.
Exactly. And when you're writing those essays, what's going to make your answer stand out is showing that you get those complexities.
Okay.
It's not just about, listing facts from the ISFR.
Right.
You have to show that you can analyze that data and connect it to bigger ideas like sustainability, and then offer solutions that are both ambitious and realistic.
It's not just about planting more trees. It's about the right trees in the right places. And recognizing that those natural forests, they're irreplaceable. We need to find that balance.
Yeah.
Understanding the ecological and economic sides of it. It's a classic UPSC essay question waiting to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And they don't want easy answers. They want to see that you can think critically about these complicated issues and then come up with solutions that are bold but also grounded in reality.
All right, UPSC aspirants, listen up.
Yeah.
This is where those critical thinking skills really come in. So let's bring it back to the ISFR 2023 and what we've been talking about. What are the key takeaways here for our listeners, especially those prepping for the UPSC?
Well, first, understanding the data. Don't get stuck on that top-level number, that overall increase in green cover. You've got to dig into the difference between forest cover and tree cover, what's really happening.
Like those comprehension passages in the CSA, you can't just skim.
Exactly.
You've got to really understand what's going on.
Exactly. Second, that change matrix in the ISFR report, that's pure gold.
Yeah.
It helps you see those dynamic changes within the forest, which is huge when you're analyzing environmental policies and their impact.
It's like a secret decoder ring.
Yeah.
Unlocking the real story.
Exactly. And lastly, yeah, increasing green cover is crucial, but it's not just about how much.
Right.
It's about what kind. We need to make protecting and restoring those natural forests the top priority, not just relying on plantations to get us there.
This has been a really eye-opening deep dive. We've gone way beyond those headlines, dug into the data, and uncovered what's really happening with India's green cover. Super valuable stuff here for our UPSC folks.
Absolutely. And remember, this is about more than just passing an exam.
Right.
It's about gaining the knowledge and the skills to face the real challenges. Like, how do we create a sustainable future for India?
Couldn't have said it better. Before we go, I want to leave everyone with a question to think about. How can India balance its development needs with protecting those natural forests? It's a tough one, but it's one that all you future policymakers are going to have to wrestle with. So get out there, do your research, think critically, and come up with some new solutions. That's what's going to make you stand out in the UPSC exam and beyond.
And remember, we're here to help you along the way. The deep dive will keep bringing you these deep dives into these important topics, helping you understand the world and, ace at UPSC.
So if you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button, share it with your fellow aspirants, and stay tuned for more. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for that excellence.